Gregory, and this is the Nocturnist Diary. This series that I am starting for the month of May is going to be Dr. Mom stories, and the first one is partially my story. Well, no, not partially, but entirely my story. But I'm going to talk about how and why emergency medicine chose me. So if you have been following my journey and following on the YouTube channel, you would probably know by now that I was pretty convinced that I wanted to be a physician by the early age of about 8 years old. Hi, Victoria. Thanks for joining. Good morning. By the age of about 8 years old. And I did not depart from that dream, and because of a very inspired and motivated mother, I was able to realize my dream of becoming a physician. So I went to medical school, and I had every intention at the beginning of medical school to be a forensic pathologist. I had read about Dr. Scarpetta, Patricia Cromwell, and I had been enamored by what she did. She took medical mysteries of those that have passed on to the next life and tried to figure out how is it that they ended up in the situation that they were in. I thought that was pretty amazing because it was a way in which that you can use your deductive skills to figure out the solution to a problem, and all the evidence was right there present before you in the autopsy suite. So pretty morbid, and I was pretty convinced. I even wrote my medical school essay saying that this is what I was going to be. So in that same vein, I went into medical school, and I sought out the county coroner, who at that time was such a warm and inviting gentleman. He was from Iraq, he was from Iran, and he welcomed me into the autopsy suite of Erie County, and he said, definitely, if you want to do several autopsies and see if this is for you, then go for it. So I was super excited, so I went, and unfortunately, the first case that we had was the unfortunate case of a toddler. And so my very first experience with this was with a baby. At the time, I had no children of my own. I had no prospect of having children. And so, had that been something that I had done now in retrospect after being around children, having children, it would have impacted me even greater than it did then. So we proceeded with the autopsy, and I was still very excited about wanting to discover why this child died and the circumstances to which this poor child's life ended abruptly. And after the autopsy, he turned to me and he said, "Charmaine, you should not do this." And I asked him why. First I took it as a personal affront. Like, why do you think I can do it? Like, I'm able to do everything that you can do. And he basically said to me that my personality is just not one that would be conducive to being in a room like this one, surrounded by those who have passed on, trying desperately to figure out why is it that they passed on, not having anyone to speak to, not hearing the verbal stories, but only depending on the physical stories. And he said, your personality is just not suitable for this. He's like, you can do it. You are smart enough to do it, but this is just not for you. And so I left that day saddened because I had all my dreams and my desires were focused on this one outcome. And here I had this veteran telling me that it just was not a good fit for me. And so I look back at that day and I am thankful for his candid feedback because it allowed me to open my eyes to other possibilities. The other that was pretty fortuitous was that during our first semester, we had a clinical skills class. And my clinical skills, basically you're in the clinic and you learn how to do basic things like doing a patient interview. That's really what they start with, and then they advance the next semester to the actual exam. So my station was actually in an emergency department, and I had the pleasure of working with an amazing clinician. His name is Stanley Sturgeon, and he just basically opened my eyes to the possibility of emergency medicine. And I felt, as I walked into the emergency department and I saw the patients and I saw the variety and I saw the difference in the energy and just all the things that were going on, I knew that was for me. And I didn't want to, I took the advice of the sage from Erie County Medical Examiner's Office, and I kept my mind open because I knew that I didn't want to just have premature closure. And, even through third year when we were doing our rotations, there was never a rotation that I felt that I could spend the rest of my life doing this. But when I was in the emergency department, when I was doing procedures, when I was trying to figure out problems with very little information, that was where I felt the most at home. And that's when I knew that emergency medicine was choosing me, had chosen me. That was the path that I would need to follow. And it worked out really great because I ended up getting into residency and completing that, and I have been an emergency physician now for almost 12 years. And I have to say that no matter what, even with the ups and downs, I do not regret the decision that I made going into emergency medicine. There is always something new every single day that I may not necessarily know the answer to, but it just really keeps me on my toes in everything. Procedurally, keeps me on my toes. It keeps me on my toes as well with dealing with patients from all different backgrounds and all different levels of illness. And it has been an amazing ride. And I honestly think that it caters greatly to my lack of ability to focus my attention for long periods of time. So I have a little bit of attention deficit, I think, and I think we all kind of do in emergency medicine. And we also have a little bit of adrenaline addiction or need or desire as well. But that is how emergency medicine chose me. It was a little bit of a journey, but I am so grateful every single day that I'm able to don my uniform and my clogs and go in and serve patients and just really hear their stories and try to figure out to the best of my ability and with all of the data that they to me with their labs and their radiographs and their stories, come up with an opportunity to eliminate the things that are most dangerous to them and what they're presenting with on the worst day of their life. I am hoping that my team is able, myself and my team, we're able to make it better for them. So that's it. That's today's mom story, Dr. Mom story, and that's the reason why emergency medicine chose me. So I hope that this was interesting to you. If it was, please feel free to share it or comment below. And this is the Nocturnist Diary, and I am Dr. Charmaine Gregory. And I hope that you will be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.